Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing, and I'm with the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. I love interviewing people who have a story to share about not having a voice. Somewhere in their life, they came to realize, though, that in order to be more of who they can be, they needed to find their voice, and they went on an inner journey to be more of who they can be so that they can share their gifts, so that they can speak. And it does take being able to speak up and speak out into the world. And today I'm going to give that opportunity to my friend Winn. And I'm going to read a little bio so you can get a little more information about her before she dives deep into her story. Robin is the best-selling author of Understanding Your Clients Through Human Design, the Breakthrough Technology, and Understanding the Centers in Human Design, the Facilitator's Guide to Transforming Pain into Possibility. She is a marriage and family therapist turned human design coach and trainer. Robin works with therapists and coaches to help them understand how they best operate as a way to improve their results with clients. Robin is also a writer, speaker, transformational coach, founder, and director of Foundations of Human Design Certification Program for Professionals. And guess what? She lives on Maui with her wife, Yarrow. Thank you, Robin, for being willing to come and share your story today.
Thank you, Doreen. It's a privilege and a delight to be here with you.
Good. I always like to start, I know diving deep right away might feel a little scary, but you and I have a really good history, and I think that it's a safe platform, and I think that that's what people are listening to is what have other people gone through, what challenges when they felt like they didn't have a voice. So let's start there with some of that and possibly what went on in your history.
Yeah. So let's see where the voice wants to lead me today. So I was born into a large family. I had 5 older brothers right off the bat and a very powerful set of parents. My mom was a speaker, my brothers were national debaters, and I I didn't come in feeling like there was much room. It was a loud family with a lot of opinions. And when you spoke, you had to state your sources, and there was really a sense of just having a feeling or thought did not merit the speaking field. So I learned very quickly not to speak, actually. Um, and I always felt from the very beginning, I felt like touch was my first language. Like I could communicate through touch. I was sensitive that way. And even writing, I could communicate through writing, but actually speaking felt very dangerous for one, and that I didn't actually have a right to my voice. That wasn't a platform that was available to me. It wasn't until I went to therapy that I had a chance to talk and be heard in a safe space, and it took a long time to feel like it was safe enough to speak, and it was a struggle to even find that, but it was really in the silence and the opening of listening the listening space of the therapist that enabled me to hear my own voice, even because that had been buried in all of that, right? I couldn't speak it out loud, but I could barely even hear what my thoughts were, my feelings. Um, so I did find that through therapy. I did find my voice through therapy, and I actually became a therapist. But I still didn't have the voice to speak in the world to other people, to groups. That didn't happen actually until I met you and went through the speaking circle training. And kind of like the therapy setting, it recreated a container, a context to speak and be heard that was not going to be judged or evaluated. And that was like magic. It was like nectar. It's like there's almost nothing better than to be received through your voice, right? It's at once delicious and spectacular. It's like the star that I am got to shine in that context. And it really opened a lot of doors for me. It really it put me at ease in the world in a new way.
Yes. Oh, so much already I want to follow up on. And before we get into what you are doing nowadays with great ease and with such spectacularness, oh, the listening, of course, the safety, and but that you said something about danger early on about speaking up. I want to go back to that experience because I think a lot of people come from families where they're squashed or squished and there's no room for them. And but you said it was dangerous. So I wanted to just follow up on what you remember or what you meant by that.
Well, I don't think of that in a malicious way at all. I want to be clear on that. This is not a blame of anyone in my family. It was just the culture that we grew up in, which was competitive, deeply competitive. And it was top down. It was like who's on the top of the mountain. Like it was proving yourself. It was being articulate. Being articulate was how you got power.
Oh, that's so, you just said it. Being articulate, and that's, I think, in our society, that's what we are supposed to do, is be articulate, and then we get the applause, we get the grades, we get achievement, advancement in our businesses. But sometimes it takes a long time to find out what you want to articulate and how you want to articulate it in your own style and your own pace. So I really like what you just said about that, that kind of
Yeah.
pressure.
I think there's another piece of that, which is something I'm really interested in is like, who's talking? Is it the ego talking or is it our beings talking, right? Because in my family, it was definitely about getting having the power was the ego power. It wasn't the beingness power. It wasn't the essence power. So being articulate was for the use of setting up a hierarchy. It wasn't being articulate to be inclusive or to make space for the all, for the everybody. And that's where the danger came, right? Because you were going to be a peon to somebody in that formula. At least I was going to be.
Mhm. Well, you must have at some point, because of just the inner beauty that I've always been touched by, you must have been holding this precious spirit inside of yourself, and you must have thought that or felt she was within you. How did you come to realize that? Was it like through pain and challenge that you started therapy, or was it like, I want more? Or maybe it was both.
Yeah. Let me just sit with that for a second.
So waking up.
Yeah, I really when I was just different than everyone from out the get-go. I was just different and I knew I was different. And so there was a secret hiding place in me that no one could touch, that no one could touch with their criticism or their judgment or that, I held myself as at once something's wrong with me, and on the other hand, something special, right? That split. Like the knowing that there's specialness here, and also the terror that I don't belong. What am I doing on this planet? Whose idea was this anyway, right? I don't have a voice. Without a voice, you don't have power. Without power, it's slave. It's like it's a nightmare, right? It's living the nightmare. So I'm just trying to feel into your question, like, yeah, I think I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision at some point. I'm either going to be on the planet and show up here, or I'm going to get off. And that was a very real choice for me in my 20s. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how we guide ourselves to ultimately what the potential within wants for us. And I really witnessed just now, those who are watching this can see, but those who are listening didn't get to see how Robin just settled down and listened to herself. And that's partly what you said about how therapy, the listening, helped you learn how to listen to yourself. And that listening, I think, is what you're saying. I mean, it's not just, yeah, this is a podcast about voice and how to find your voice and speaking, but it's all about, if you can't listen to that voice, you can't find her or him or they inside. It's you're forever disconnected and lost, and the potential remains unmanifested.
Yeah. And I also think I found it through touch, through body work, being touched. I studied Rosa Method body work. That was the first thing. It was kind of a talk touch therapy. And that was a kind of a listening that could allow me to begin, because it had to do with the voice. You'd say what was going on, and you could see in the breath if it was true or not. So it started honing me to my truth.
Yes, the whole fullness of expression through body, voice, and psyche, and learning how to read that is partly what it sounds like you did at first, was to learn how to listen to bodies and listen to bodies speak, I guess.
And my own body, right? My own body, other people's bodies. Yeah, the conversation, that conversation, hooking that up with that inner voice.
Yeah. Well, I know we can, if there's something else you might want to say about what's coming to you around the history and waking up.
Yeah, I just want to say, part of what happened for me is that my mom had such a big voice. I mean, my brothers totally had a big voice, but my mom was a speaker. She could impact people. She was facile with words, right? And I thought that was her. I gave her that realm rather than me that realm. So I abandoned that inside of me because I saw, it's like a little kid deciding not to walk because everybody else is walking. Like I saw her doing that, and that I knew I couldn't do that. And I didn't know that I could do the steps it took to get to that place, and that I would be different than the way she did it, because I felt a little abused by the way she did it, or that it was in that more top down place rather than that curiosity place. Yeah, I have a voice, but you also have a voice. Let me hear your voice. Like we all have a voice. We need everyone's voices.
Yes. Oh boy, this is really resonating with listeners, I'm sure, what you're saying now about encouraging people who are listening that we all have voices, and it doesn't have to look like whoever it is that you admire. I mean, sure, they could be mentors, but the more important part is finding your voice. And that's what it sounds like. You learn to take steps to find that. Yes, the Rosa method, the body work. What else in terms of your own journey?
Well, you read about my biography, and I found Well, there's so many things. We could talk for hours here. Let me just, I'll go to human design in a second. I just want to take a little sidestep to meeting Byron Katie. This was 25 years ago I met her. And she was another, she created another space of listening that I had never met before. It was a space of listening of whatever was said was welcomed. Whatever was said was welcome. There was nothing I could say to her that she would then turn around and dismiss me for. And it was mind-blowing to me. That was one thing, mind-blowing to realize that these things I would say that would come out of me that hurt people sometimes, right? That, oh, there's space for those too. I don't know how to articulate that better, but that I didn't have to repress my voice. Yeah, I could be skillful with it, all that, yes. So that was one piece. Does that make sense?
Well, I think you're talking about acceptance of the self and all the parts, or the
Exactly, all the parts, all the parts, all the voices inside could be seen and looked at and welcomed and respected. And not taken for truth at the same time, not taken for the ultimate truth, right?
yes.
It's scary to have a voice that sounds really true and then to find out, well, I don't have to believe that. I don't have to go with that. So that was one magical thing that happened with her. The other magical thing that happened with her is that once I found my voice, I wanted to talk all the time. And I had my hand raised and I was talking all the time. And right? Because now I have a stage. I want to be heard. And she looked at me one time and she said, this is a small living room in Barstow in her house. She looked at me, she said, sweetheart, do you think we care what you have to say? And the medicine that was for me, it shut me up for 2 years, but in a different way than I had been with my family. It was like I could look and see, what did I really want to say? Who was I saying this for? Right? Like, was I saying something to be heard, to try to get attention? Or did I actually have something of value to say in the right moment at the right time?
Mm-hmm. And trusting that, learning to trust what that is, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all this discernment around voice.
Yes. Oh, this is so amazing. Today's session is because it's really showing that voice just isn't one place that you land and then you found your voice. It's an ongoing dynamic process, and engaging with voices within and learning how, as you said, discerning what is true, I guess, and what's not so true.
In fact, this reminds me, my first speaking circle with Lee, I totally was inappropriate. It was like, I have people who are going to listen to me. I have space. And I just was like, I was weird. And I got it. But because the space was such a listening space, I got to see I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to be dramatic to be heard. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it was such a correction for me. It was so like, oh, this is different. Listening within is not about getting someone's attention.
Mm-hmm. Listening within is about what?
Yeah, it's about hearing. It's about hearing the soul. It's about hearing the authentic self.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I just want to hang out in this shared stillness with you. But we got listeners and they're eager to hear more about human design, I'm sure, because you found your way there, and how and what is that?
So I had been a therapist for 25 years, and then human design kind of entered my world and rocked it. And human design is a combination of astrology and physics and the I Ching and the Hindu chakra system and the Judaic Kabbalah. It's kind of hard to describe, but it takes your birth time and it creates a body graph or a chart that's your blueprint as you walk through life. Oh, and in this blueprint, actually, it's so interesting. They say it's understood that each person is a piece of a giant puzzle, the puzzle of humanity. We're all needed exactly as we are. When we try to live someone else's puzzle piece, we suffer and humanity loses out on what we have to bring. And this is the super interesting part. The way, if human design were a game, the way to win the game would be to get what we call a motor to your throat. Because having access to your throat is the way you create in the world, right? In the beginning was the word. So the whole movement in human design is to find a way to access your voice.
All right.
And two of the types, and you're one of them, have access to their voice, have a motor to the throat. You start off winning the game. There's no hierarchy here, but you have superpowers that whenever anyone's in your presence, they have more access to their voice than they would on their own.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. No
I
wonder I'm
know.
doing this.
I know, exactly, right? I don't have that. I have what's called an open throat. I don't have consistent access to my voice. I was born that way. Nobody did me wrong with that. It's not a problem. It's just one of the conundrums I have to work with in this lifetime. And I really hear my voice as it comes out. I can't think it and speak it. I have to totally allow it to come through me. The more I surrender, the more the authentic voice comes through. And I'm one of the three types that has to be in relationship with others in order to access my voice. So that's how I get my power. You can stand out there. You actually can stand on your own and speak. You have that capacity. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
It took a while. I have my own story. I should
Yeah,
interview
I'm
myself
sure.
someday.
I'm sure. But here's the thing. You take an Oprah, who's like me, a generator. She can't stand on her own. She needs to be interviewing people. Her voice comes in relationship. My voice comes in relationship.
And here you are today, just really singing loud and clear to folks who want to hear from you.
Yeah. My puzzle piece, letting my puzzle piece have its voice and speak and bring its light that it's here to bring. And each one of us, that's the bottom line, each one of us has that and we need everyone's voice. It's a need for humanity and for the future of humanity. And so what you're doing is really a healing service.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the human design system, for people who are listening today, it seems like everybody has a design. It sounds like, it's based on certain criteria that you pointed to, like, I guess, birth date and time. And yet it's more than just an astrological chart. It feels like all the ways in which you said the I Ching and other systems, it's just like every system gets integrated in this one. And that sounds like what's true about it.
So I've studied many systems. I love systems, and this one does something that none of the others do. And let me just briefly explain that, which is in human design, you have places where you have consistent access to certain energies, and then you have places where you don't, like my throat. I don't have consistent access to that. It's like a puzzle where some parts of the puzzle go out and some other parts of the puzzle receive other parts of the puzzle. So, but this is a multidimensional puzzle. So it reflects not only who we are, but the space that we are, that other people enter.
Okay, let me just, I want you to say that again. It's who we are as well as the space when other people interact with us.
So the space and the planets, right? The space of who we are, as well as the definition of who we are.
All right.
So we take ourselves to be like this body, but we know maybe we're spirit. We know, right? Human design shows, yeah, you take yourself to be these energies. This is who I am. But actually, you're also the space in which life interacts with you.
Constantly, huh?
Constantly. And that's always shifting, right?
Yes. And this shifting feels so dynamic. It feels like that to me, it sounds like what you're saying. This is what it means to be alive.
Yeah, yeah. But in those spaces of who we are, if the ego grabs hold because it doesn't like that space, it wants to be somebody or have a voice, or right, the efforting of being something or saying something, we don't allow that space. We don't have room for that dynamic interaction. We go to a false self, we go to a false identity, and we lose out on the mystery of who we are, the openness of who we are, the interconnectedness of who we are.
The mystery, the openness, and the interconnectedness. Let me take a breath on that one. Yes. Well, I'm sure that you've only begun to unfold all the mystery of this human design process. I think that people who are listening would love to be with you, hear from you. You've got a book, I know, and you obviously do trainings. You're very active in this passion that is clearly yours and this expertise. How would you say that people actually can take a first step in this, in discovering more about human design?
Well, you should get my book for sure. You should get my book, Understanding Your Clients Through Human Design. Even though it's for clients, it's the simple, very simple introduction to human design, and you'll want to get your chart with that. And I can give you resources for both of those. I'll give you a free download to my book and a link to get a free chart. So you can start by looking at who you are and what that means. What's your puzzle piece?
Oh, wow, that's so exciting. So you say that people can start by downloading your book, or what would be the link for that, Robin?
Yeah, I thought we were going to put that in the, hang on one second. Let me pull that up.
It,
So, go ahead.
I've got it here. It's, the regular www clientsandhumandesign.com/free dash book.
That's right.
clientsandhumandesign.com. And you can get a free book to begin your journey for discovering more about this design that you were born with. And the more you know yourself, it feels like the more you can move toward what your destiny is, what you're here to do in the first place. Also, Robin, what about if they just want to contact you, like send you an email or a website, something like that?
Yeah, they send me an email, robin at clientsandhumandesign.com. So that's Robin, ROBIN, at clientsandhumandesign.com.
Great. Well, we're almost done. I want to always give guests an opportunity to have some last words that would come through you. It's not something obviously that's canned. I know you and I trust you that you listen into this moment and to see what needs to be or wants to be communicated at this moment as we close.
Yeah, thank you, Doreen. Thank you for this opportunity to show up in the space between us and with each of us in our fullness and our openness. The image I'm having is that our voice is light. It's our light that we're bringing to the world, and whether it's spoken or not, we can bring that light, but the speaking of it brings it into manifestation. And that it's almost like our job at this point, with the world being as crazy as it is and disrupted, right? We're in a disrupted cycle. It's 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 an opportunity, and it's our obligation, I think, at some level, to honor that voice and bring it into the light.
Honor that voice and bring it into the light. That means bring yourself into the light, folks. So I enjoyed sharing you today, Robin, with my listeners. And I hope they find you right away because you have so much to offer. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Doreen. It's such an honor and a privilege to be in your presence, to share this with all of you out there who maybe get touched and called to discover human design for yourself.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.